order is the tech, Palantir, mass surveillance age, where it used to be Wall Street and global transnational banking. But then how does the family like the Rothschilds, who Epstein in the emails, he said that he represents the Rothschilds. This is a family who has manipulated what you mentioned in your lecture, that the Rothschild family knew that the Battle of Waterloo was actually won by the British against the French, but they manipulated the media because they were in control of the media at the time in order to instill panic within England, and then they bought up all the low stock. Does a family like the Rothschild family suffer, or do they continue their reign under the tech age?
Yeah, so if you're the Rothschilds, you're betting on both sides, right? Remember that's what transnational capital does. It bets on both sides. So you go back to the Bolshevik Revolution. It funded both the Bolsheviks and the whites, right? And you go back to World War II, it was funding every side, right? So your transnational capital, that's how you play the game. So the Rothschilds have investments in both, right? And look, if you're the Rothschild and before you put your money into stocks, now you put your money into data centers, right? Now you put your money into Israel.
Okay, so they play both. I think that's one of the hardest red pills for people to swallow, is that both sides are serving the same people, right? People have so much allegiance, and I've been reiterating this the whole year, that I don't know how you feel, but I don't align with any political ideology, right? I'm getting called a communism by people like Matt Walsh, and then people on the far left will call me a Nazi. I get called a radical Islamist. They say you're alt-right and all this stuff. I'm sure you get accusations for the same thing as well. But detailed through your lectures, it just becomes completely evident that all these isms, and even in the words of Dennis Prager, he said every single ism, except for Nazism, has been predominantly run by Jews. And this is a Jewish man who runs one of the biggest conservative media platforms in America. This is him saying this, right? All these isms serve the same goal. Is that true? And do you have a political affiliation at all?
Yeah, so I think the point of these isms, right, is to create a dialectic, which then creates change, okay? So let's look at communism. And I talked about this, right, where capitalism, transnational capital, was creating a lot of problems. And at this time in history, there were two separate solutions to the problem of capitalism. The first solution was socialism, which is the redistribution of wealth. The second solution is anarchism, which is say, like, let's go to government, because what's the point of government anyway? All they do is serve bankers, right? So these were two extremely popular isms during the 19th century. And the solution is to create communism, because when you create communism, what you do is you discredit both anarchism and socialism, right? Because the point of communism is you need a revolutionary vanguard in order to create as much violence as possible, overthrow the bourgeoisie, and then instill a communist dictatorship, a workers' paradise. And now you're a liberal, and before, if you're a liberal middle-class individual, you don't have problems with socialism, because socialism, redistribution of wealth, in theory, you should have more status and power, right, if you're middle class. But now communism, this is a huge issue. And communism was used in order to eradicate other oppositions towards capitalism, transnational capital, including religion, right? Including monarchies. And so the classic example, of course, is Russia. Russia was resilient against transnational capital because they were an Orthodox faith and they had a czar. And so if you wanted to spread capitalism around the world, and Russia was this virgin territory, it was very wealthy, then you need communism in order to overthrow the regime. And that's exactly what happened, okay? And the same thing happened in China as well, where because of these cultural prejudices, it was hard for transnational capital to come in and co-opt and enslave the people. With communism in place, then people's minds are cleared, right? That's what the Cultural Revolution was about. It was to destroy all tradition, all ethnic identity, all sort of national pride, and then you make yourself then open for enslavement to transnational capital. And that's exactly what's happening in China, okay? I mean, like, I live in China. I'm feeling like this is a zombie civilization. They destroyed the civilization a long time ago. Everyone is utilitarian. Like everyone's just money obsessed in this country.
Right. I like your explanation about communism. One, that it's an inevitable trajectory. It goes from capitalism to socialism to communism. You can see that right now in New York City, just elected a Democratic Socialist mayor, because everybody has, the average debt in Gen Z is $94,000. People can't afford rent the same way. So naturally, you're going to elect somebody that promises things that are going to be cheaper. But also, your explanation of communism makes perfect sense when you realize that it was in order to direct the conversation away from faith and towards class. And so there's leftist streamers, I don't know if you know Hassan Piker, someone like this, he hasn't really connected Epstein to Israel, even though it's blatantly obvious all over the files. And it's because people who focus and fixate on communism and socialism, they are meant, and the whole goal of communism is to get people speaking about the class issue. So now Israel is not a part of Pax Judaica. Israel is not part of a bigger faith movement. It's really about class. It's a fascist state. It's class warfare, which distracts from what's really going on and what was always supposed to happen in eschatology.
Okay, so I'll tell you something really funny. Okay. So Pax Judaica, this tech oligarchy that this surveillance state that you're trying to create. The blueprint is a book, 1970 book called Between Two Ages, by Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was the national security advisor to Jimmy Carter, and he's one of the two big foreign policy giants in America. So the other one, of course, was Henry Kissinger. Okay, so these two are responsible for the grand strategy of America. And he writes this book, Between Two Ages, and he outlines a plan for creating a surveillance state, a nation ruled by experts. Okay, and if you read the book, what's really interesting is he has nothing but praise for Marx, right? And his argument is this: Marx embodies Enlightenment thinking, because what Marxism does is it rises above religion and race. It's universal. It's Enlightenment principles, it's reason, okay? So in other words, what these people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are trying to create is techno-Marxism, right? Because what's Marxism? Marxism is a nation ruled by an bureaucratic elite that knows more than you do, right? And it's a command economy. Well, that's what the AI surveillance state is. So another word for AI surveillance state is techno-Marxism.
Techno-Marxism.